I'll kick us all off and say, hi everyone. It's really great to have you here as part of the AITD webinar, and we're really delighted to have Christine being our master presenter and fantastic partner with us here. I'll cover this in a little bit more detail, but firstly, just want to make an acknowledgement to the traditional custodians of the lands, for those elders past, present, and emerging, and those Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who may be with us today. Do we have a sense of who came along to the conference in Adelaide? Maybe stick something in the chat and say, came along, Christine came, we had a great event. We will provide a little bit of a summary on that in some emails coming up, but Christine presented there. What a terrific presentation, Christine.
Thank you. Try to make it amusing.
Yeah, we love it. Christine is part of Peeplcoach, co-founder of Peeplcoach, and been an important partner with AITD for at least 2 years, Christine,
Yes.
and an interested partner with AITD for many more years before that. And our arrangement is that we get the benefit of her master coaching and her team supporting the work of AITD, and we support Christine as well and all the great information she provides. Christine is going to be presenting face-to-face in a number of courses coming up in Melbourne and Sydney, so we will provide a little bit more information about that as we go. But without further ado, just wanted to say thanks very much. I'll cover a little bit more about AITD and membership a little bit later on, but other than that, over to you, Christine. Great to have you with us.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Checking that you can all see my screen. And I always feel like I'm in trouble when someone says Christine, but, I feel that we've got a good relationship, Ben, so I'm assuming that I'm not in trouble. So I am the founder and CEO of Peeplcoach, and we are a coaching and training organisation. I also acknowledge the traditional owners of our land, our beautiful lands in which we're sitting today, and all leaders, past, present, and future. So what we do at Peeplcoach is we bring technology and people, coaching and training together to turn technical managers into effective and inspiring and high-performing leaders. And we are all here today because of the topic, building a high-performing team. And the reality is that none of us can do it on our own. We all need others, whether we are directly managing a team or whether we're part of a team or whether we're in a cross-functional team. It's all part of being in a team. And there's some tips that I'm going to take you through. So again, whether you're a leader, directly with direct reports or not, there'll be things hopefully that you can take out of this that you can action immediately. So I'd love to see in the chat, what are some of the characteristics of, or you can yell out if you like or whatever, what are some of the characteristics of high performing teams? What would people say? Empathy, fantastic. Initiative, effective communication, positive communication, psychological safety, collaboration, energy, fantastic. Absolutely. You know what was interesting? Again, I learned this at the AITD conference, that Gen Z is the first generation of employee or generation that has put empathy as its top 3 values. For all the generations before, empathy hasn't been a focus. It's been integrity, it's been honesty, it's been purpose, those sort of things, but not empathy, which is a really interesting thing as we move forward, because if it's not a top 3 value for X's and boomers or millennials, how are they going to relate with Gen X's, Gen Z's? Interesting concept. So we all know intuitively what the characteristics of a high-performing team are. And so what I want to do is ask you, based on that sort of concepts, how would you actually rate the performance of your team? So Ben, if you can just post that poll, So on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is you've got an incredible team, and 0 is you don't have a high-performing team at all, what would that be? Are you able to launch that, Ben? Perfect. Seven and eights. We're seeing lots of 7, 8s, a few 9s. That's good. So the questions you need to be asking yourself are you achieving the KPIs and the objectives set out for your organization, for your team? Are your team members achieving their individual KPIs? Would your team members trust each other? Do you have clear communications? Right, so they're the types of things that we'll be thinking about here. Now, I love the honesty of some of you who have got giving a rating of 5. We've got lots of 7s, and then we've got no 10s. So basically, what we're saying is we don't have people. People don't believe that they have a really high performing team. Right. So I'm going to end the poll now. The majority of you have already participated, but you can see on average it's a 7 out of 10. Okay. I now want to ask the next question, which is, how would you rate yourself as a leader? Same scale, right? 1 to 10. The way you turn up, the way you influence, the way you lead your team. Are they achieving their KPIs? Are you achieving your KPIs? Is that launched, Ben?
Can you see it?
No,
Okay.
not launched.
Looks like there's ratings that are being made to it. Let's have a look.
Great. Okay, can see it now. Awesome. Really interesting, right? So that should align, because you can see that the majority of people are saying I'm a 7, which aligns to, if you're not if you see yourself as a 7, then obviously your team's going to be a 7. So the same sort of numbers. So that's good to see that there's some self-awareness there. So we all have something to learn, which is wonderful, and that's why we're here today. So what makes a high-performing team? The first thing is an aligned and clear purpose. And so how do we ensure that? All our organizations have a strategic plan. All our organizations have metrics and objectives that they're trying to achieve. The reality is, the further away you are from the people that set the strategy, the less you understand it and less that you can call it. Now, I'm not going to ask anybody, and it's the same with values. The number of times I will talk to an organization or an individual leader and I say, what are your, do you have values? Yes, we do. What are they? And people might mention the first 2 or 3, and then they go, oh, what's that other one? I forget. Right. And now it's the same when it comes to aligning the goals and purpose of your team members and your individuals within your team. And as a leader, sometimes we can feel like we're saying the same thing over and over again. I told them last month what it was. I presented it last quarter. I presented it the strategic plan, but actually people don't remember. We have a memory now, or attention span, of 7.8 seconds. So we need to repeat the same things over and over again. The second thing is diversity. And, the classic diversity is the male-female, but now we need to also be thinking about beyond gender. What's our race diversity? If we now know that the second largest cultural background of people in Australia is Indian after English, right? So what are the different cultural backgrounds, our upbringings, our baggage, our strengths, all those things? What are we bringing to our workplace? Have we all gone to the same school or type of school? Have we all got the same degree? Now, in some cases, you all have to have a medical degree to be a doctor, but in business, would it not be interesting to have people from all sorts of different industries bringing different thoughts and experiences to the workplace, including age, right? So lucky organizations will have 4 generations of people in their workplace, from Gen Z to baby boomers. Mutual respect and trust. And the most important thing is trust, right? So do I believe that the person sitting next to me in my team has my back? Do I believe my leader has my back? Do I believe I can trust them to do what they say they're going to do? When they say they're going to give me that report or that piece of work, will they do it? And will they do it right? We need honesty, we need debate, and we need disagreement. I always have a concern when a leader says to me, we have a great team culture, everybody gets along and we never argue. That is not healthy, right? Great high performance teams have respectful and courageous and constructive debate. They challenge each other on a different way, a new way, upside down way. We call it topsy-turvy world, right? So anybody that's just always agreeing, always understanding each other. I mean, you've always got to try to understand each other, but if you're always agreeing, you're not getting that healthy debate, or you're getting groupthink. Either way, it's not healthy for innovation. And it doesn't lead to high performance. It leads to safe performance, right? So are you a safe performance culture or you're a high performance culture? Courageous conversations. And, we use the model here, Radical Candor, which is all about clear and kind. Clear means exactly what you need to say. Kind obviously is kind. It does not mean soft. Kind does not mean you don't have hard conversations. It does not mean that you don't indicate to people when they're not performing. You just need to do it kindly and clearly with rationale. Vulnerability and failure. High performance teams push themselves to failure. They test and learn. They get uncomfortable. They innovate. They sometimes break things, right? Again, something I picked up from the AITD conference. Fail is first attempt at learning, right? If you're not failing, you're not learning. Now, we use a psychometric assessment called LSI. We love it, right? And one of the things that comes out of there is this theme of achievement orientation between competitive orientation. Competitive orientation means I need to beat you. So lots of high performing people will say, oh, my competitive spirit is what pushes me and gets me over the line. What LSI says is actually it's not competitive spirit that drives us forward, it's achievement orientation. And what's the difference? The difference is if you are competing with someone, you need to beat them. There's a winner, there's a loser. When you've got an achievement orientation, it's not about beating anyone, it's about being better than you were yesterday. Right. So how have I improved our performance? How have I improved my delivery? How have we as a team improved our communication versus yesterday? It's not about being better than the next team. It's about being better than we were yesterday. Agreed code of conduct. So how will we perform? How will we speak to each other? How will we turn up? And simple things like high performance teams start and end meetings on time. If you have 10 people in a meeting and everybody's 5 minutes late, that's 50 minutes. That's nearly an hour. And if you count up the hour, like a wasted hour, how much is that actually costing organizations? So simple etiquette things like turning up on time, ending on time, having an agenda, they are rules that high performing teams have. And it's also time to build. Right? They talk about forming, storming. The reality is we are still humans. We still want to build connection. We still got to learn the nuances of each other. So high performing teams do not happen overnight. They happen with time. They happen with honesty. They happen with trust, and they happen with clear communication. Now, there are 3 exercises that we use at Peeplcoach to build high performing teams. So if you go through any of our programs, in our high performing teams, you would do these exercises. 1 is building trust, 2 is creating alignment, and the 3rd one is defining your code of conduct, right? So at the end of this presentation, there'll be a QR code so that you can actually QR code it and get some of these downloads of these exercises, but let me talk you through them. So the first one is what we call the lifeline exercise. And what this says is that well, the theory of this is our past impacts our future, right? So the experiences that we've had in our past will change the way we think about things, how we behave, etc. And I'm literally going through something at the moment, and I had to explain to my team that I have a very high what we call conscientiousness, which is when I say I'm going to do something, I do something. And then if I find out that it doesn't get done, I then think like if, then I think, oh my God, everything hasn't been done. So I catastrophize it. So if I find one mistake, I think there's mistakes everywhere. But what that means for me is that when I start to find errors, I will go deep into, oh my God, I've got to fix everything, right? Now that's a past situation that is now impacting my future. But because I now know that, I'm able to communicate that and build trust with my team. So I can say to them, hey guys, now I'm doing this at the moment because of the trauma that I had in my past. Now, it actually makes me a really good execution person because I get a lot of stuff done. It sometimes makes me a bad leader because I can micromanage. But if I can communicate that to my team, they have trust that it's not necessarily about them, it's about me. I hope that makes sense. But if you can see this line here where it's got all these different things happen in our lives and our experiences and our leaderships that will change the way that we interact with others. And I want to give you a really, I think, poignant example that I had many years ago, and I'll always remember it. So I was coaching a finance person, and he was so proud of the fact of how he managed the finance for this organization. He was proud of the fact that, they'd never be insolvent, wages are always paid on time, supplies are always paid on time, super was always paid, et cetera, et cetera. From his team, however, they felt that he was frugal to the point of stingy. He would fight them on pay rises and bonuses. It was akin to having a lock on the stationery cupboard, so you had to ask for a pen. You were allowed to have 3 sheets of toilet paper. Like, it was like ridiculous. And when they went through this exercise, what they realized is that this man had been brought up in a very disadvantaged environment. They were evicted multiple times. They were homeless. He often didn't have meals. He had a lot of charity. So in the sense of, they couldn't go to the school excursions. He sometimes didn't get to go to school. He never had a new book, all those sort of things. And what he vowed to himself is that he would never allow that to happen to anyone else. So he was smart. He got a scholarship. He went to uni. He became a finance person. But the way he showed his love and respect for his team, his organization, and his family was being very, very strict on the finances. And his perspective was, no one I work with or live with will ever be hungry. They will never be kicked out. They will never be cold. They will always be paid. So when he realized that, he then realized, well, when I coached him on it, he realized that actually that trauma of his past is not his reality. The business was a very strong business. Personally, at home, he had money, he had investments, he had all sorts of things. So he actually didn't have to be, honestly, as stingy as he was. So that's a learning for him. The learning for his team was that his frugalness was actually not a sign of not liking his people, but actually caring deeply for the people, because he never wanted any of his team to ever be in a situation where they couldn't pay their mortgage, they couldn't pay their super, they couldn't pay their rent. So opening that up built trust, and it created a language for them to be able to communicate to each other. Now, this particular exercise is very, very powerful, but it has to be done in the right way. Now, you may not choose to do this with your team, depending on what your team's like, without a facilitator, but you can at least do it for yourself. So if you can look at what are the things that have occurred for you over the past, and how have these things impacted your current thinking and your behaviors with others, you may see a little trigger that goes, oh my goodness, I don't have to be like that anymore. If you've got any questions along any of this, please feel free to, ask me along the way. I'm pretty happy at, having a chat. So building trust. The first thing to ask yourself as a leader is, do I trust and am I trustworthy? And one way to find this out is, really thinking about what are you doing as a leader? Why would they trust you? And maybe why wouldn't they? So when you make a commitment to one of your team that you will have that work in progress with them on a Thursday at 9 o'clock, do you turn up every time? Sometimes when you feel like it? Do you have an agenda? Are you present, or are you looking at your emails and doing other things? When you say that you're going to get back to them around a pay rise or some feedback or whatever, do you do it, or do you not do it? We have every interaction we have, whether it's with a team member, a family member, a friend, a partner, we have debits and credits, right? And you can get away with things around trust if you've got lots of debits. So if 9 times out of 10 you do exactly what you say and then you drop a ball, it's okay, because it's not usual for Chris to do that. So therefore I still trust her. But if I'm a 50% of the time I do what I say and 50% of the time I don't, or 50% of the time I'm honest with you, but then you hear behind your back that I've said something else about you, I'm not going to trust you. Now, we hold our leaders to a higher standard. So if you're managing a team, if you're a leader, your people are looking to you as a role model. So it's even more important for you to do what you say, and be honest and transparent. What that means for many leaders is learning the ability to say no, learning the ability to prioritize, so that they know when you say yes to something, it will be done. It's not a maybe will be done. And really honestly looking at you and saying, why would they trust you? So what do you do that are the strengths of yours? But why wouldn't they? Right? And build that self-awareness. If you are unsure, we always use the tool start, stop, continue. Go to your team and say, for me to be a better leader for you, for you to trust me more, maybe you don't want to use that exact word, but what would I need to start, stop, continue for me to be a better leader for you? Oh, there you go. To be, I need to, you can say for yourself what you think you need to stop, start, and continue. And you might ask your team, what do they need to see more of from you? So, and it could be as simple as, and it's Lisa, sorry, because I can see your face. Lisa, I love the fact you do a whip with me every time, but, sometimes I see you looking at your phone. And that makes me feel that you're not listening to me, right? It's not your attention, but that's what happens. And we love this framework because it makes people look at very clear actions. What do I need to stop? What do I need to start? What do I need to continue? Any questions on that before I go to the next one? If they are, just put them in the chat, and then Ben can let me know. The next one is an exercise around creating alignment and understanding. So again, having those clear goals. And as a leader, sometimes we know a lot more than our team do. And sometimes we believe that we've told them everything, but we may or may not have, right? So the first thing around setting the goals is actually them being very clear. It's about communicating them several times. What are the key metrics? So exactly what do they have to achieve and when? And do you have their commitment? Or are you telling them, or are you asking them? Now, one of the things that we do in this exercise, or, when we do our modules, would be making sure that our team members understand what the goals are and what the job is to be done, by asking them to come back to us and paraphrase it. And so the question will be, again, Lisa, because I can see you, Lisa, now that I've shared this with you, can you feed back to me what I just said, just to make sure that I've told you everything that's in my head? So it's not about, Lisa, do you understand? Because we think we understand. We're going to say yes. And even if we don't understand, we're like, we don't want to look stupid and say no, right? So first thing, don't ask a closed question. Always ask the open. The second one is, it's not, can you tell me what I said so that I can make sure you understand? It's, can you tell me what I said so that I can make sure I've told you everything? Right? Again, it's not about them not knowing. It's about making sure that you're communicating. That simple question can clear up so much confusion and stop so much wasted time, because it allows the other person to say, right, this is what I'm going to do then. I'm going to do this by this time. This is the way you're going to approach it. This is blah, blah, blah. And then you can go, no, hold on. That's not what I meant. What I meant was this. Right. And again, there's no right or wrong. It's just the way we hear and the way we speak. Sometimes we don't speak the same language. And I'm going to give you an example. So anyone that's seen any of my presentations, I talk a lot about children, because my first job and my most important job, I believe, in the world is being a mother to my children. They're also the people that have taught me, they're the hardest people to manage, and they're where I've made the biggest mistakes. So let's talk about two people getting married. And they say to each other before they get married, do you want kids? And the other one says yes. And they're like, awesome. I love you. You're amazing. We're aligned. We both want kids. It's great. But one person's view of a kid is one child, full stop. The other person's view of kids is 4 children and 2 foster kids and 4 cats. Very different. So it's the same thing in business when we're talking about creating alignment, creating goals. When you say we want to hit, 100,000 in revenue this month, some people might think you do it by cutting costs or, doing a discount. The next person might think you do it by adding value. Another person might be doing it by you offer bribes, right? You've got to have the detail around how are you going to achieve this goal and what does it actually mean? And spending that extra time to go, when you say you want kids, what exactly do you mean? So when you say you want me to achieve this, write this report by Thursday, exactly what do you mean by that, right? And again, it's a silly example, but there are so many, I don't know, I'm of an age now where lots of people are getting divorced, the simple belief that we were aligned on this, but actually when you dug deeper and asked the next, what does that mean question, they were never aligned, ever, right? The third one is code of conduct. And this can often be one of the hardest things to do in an organization or a team, because many of us, especially if you're a new leader, find it hard. You just expect that everybody's going to treat everybody else the way you treat them, right? So you turn up, on time and ready, and you just think everybody's going to turn up on time and ready. The next person's like, oh, everyone's 5 minutes late. So I'm always 5 minutes late. Everyone's 5 minutes late. It's okay. So it's really important to have those ground rules of how this team, our team, is going to interact with each other, and the big things are meetings, funnily enough, because a lot of conflict comes around meetings. The next one is, how do we resolve conflict? So if there is a conflict situation between 2 team members or a manager, or uncertainty around somewhere to what the project is or whatever it is, how are you going to negotiate that? What's not acceptable? So what are your non-negotiables? In our lives, we have that. So if you're married or in a relationship, you might have some non-negotiables that you say. And so in mine, it would be, if you cheat, there's a divorce. There's no second chances, 0 tolerance here. So I'm very clear with that. That is not the same for other relationships. That is fine, right? But in my relationship, in my home, that's the way it is. So each of us need to decide what's acceptable or not acceptable. What language is acceptable? What tolerance do we have on people being late? What tolerance do we have on people not communicating with each other? And then it takes the leader to actually have it is up to the leader to encourage that culture, but it's also up to every team member to hold each other accountable. It doesn't always have to be the manager or the boss that says, why, Ben, are you always late? Right? It can be any of us saying, we all our time is important and valuable. So it's important that we all turn up. And then really having that culture of communication in a safe space. And the more you have trust with each other, that your intentions are pure, that were looking towards an achievement orientation, the tougher the conversations that you can have and the more impact you can actually make in moving things forward, right? For those people that find it hard to have a tough conversation because, oh, I don't know, is it really them? Am I being too hard? I know they're having a hard time. You know, people like clear direction. Think about yourself, right? If you were doing something not to your best or to your capability, or you'd make a mistake, would you rather someone say to you, hey, Lisa, can I spend 5 minutes with you? I saw the report you did. I thought it was great. I just noticed this, this, and this. Have a think about it for next time. Or would you rather them go, oh, I'm embarrassed. I know she tried really hard on that report. I don't want to tell her. And then just let her make the same mistake over and over and over again. Like, which was worse, really? Right. So what I'd like to do, because whilst I love an audience, I also like these things to be interactive. So I want you to take 5 minutes now and think about what are some of the things that you've taken out or that you can do today to create a more high-performing team immediately. And then I'm going to ask you to give me some feedback. Awesome. Starting to love some of these. More conscious of leading by example that I want or expect. I mean, we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard. And people are looking at us. And the interesting about leadership is that if you're senior in a role, it's not just your direct reports that are looking at you, it's everybody in the organization is looking at you. You know, how you turn up, how you present, how you say hello to people, how you don't say hello to people, how you make them feel when they've left, if you allow them to feel seen, they're all really important things. Yeah, safe performance and high performance. It's a big comment. There's the book Good to Great, and they actually say the enemy of great is good. So when it's good enough, and so you don't have a burning platform to change because it's good enough, that's the biggest issue to becoming great. Great. Being more consistent with one-on-ones and being present. So I always say, I mean, I think sometimes we randomly or we habitually put 1 hour, we put, one-on-one whip each week or month or whatever we do. But then we get distracted because we got 10,000 emails to do and another phone call and blah, blah, blah. Just do 30 minutes then, but make it powerful and turn off everything and sit it and look at each other. Well, unless it's Zoom or whatever, look at each other, be present and make that 30 minutes count versus an hour that's sort of a bit distracted. Build on communication, alignment of goals. And I think when you're digging down around, especially when you're creating that alignment and having that question around making it really clear, if you use a silly example like the kids one and say, I'm going to use this methodology of really digging deep to make sure that one of us doesn't think we're having one child and someone thinks we're having six, because that's a big difference. Use that as an example, and it sort of makes people freer to go, exactly what does that mean? Can you confirm that again for me? Is that by Tuesday at 10 o'clock or next Tuesday at 10 o'clock? Like, which Tuesday is it? Right. Now, does anybody want to give me share an example or an issue that they're having? We can do that anonymously. So if you want to write it, I can share it, or you can say it, and then we can maybe do a bit of a coaching session on it. Nope. Everybody's got a high performing team? Yes. Okay. Janique, I've got two teams, one high performing, one mid, same leadership style. Okay. Love that question. As a leader, our role, because we're held to a higher standard, is to speak in the language and turn up where our team members are at, not the other way around. And the most successful leaders know which levers to pull at different times. So, can I ask the one that is, what are some of the things that you're doing differently? Or what are the differences between the high performing and the mid performing organizer teams? What are some of the differences? Feel free to team dynamics are lower performing are very different. Yep. Feel free to unmute if you want to talk it through instead of type it. Sorry. So how are the team dynamics different in the lower performing team? Is there like, my standard answer would be there's a lack of trust and a lack of communication. The other thing to observe is that if you have a low performer in a team, it will make the people that they're sitting next to 30% less productive. So we don't rise to the highest, we drop to the lowest. So as a leader, it is also our role to make sure that we are managing low performing or mid performing individuals to ensure that we can have a high performing team. When it comes to, so I've just got a note here that sometimes it's about skill and sometimes it's about will. So we have a model that we call strategy, talent, effort. And this is to build accountability. So strategy being, do you know what to do? Do you know why to do it? Why you need to do it? Do you know the outcomes that are required? So that's the strategy part. The talent part is, do you have the skill? Like, do you have the resources? Do you have the time? Do you have the knowledge? Do you have the technology? And if when you're speaking to someone, they say, yes, I understand what needs to be done, and then you both believe you've got the skill, then the only reason this thing is not successful is out of will, which is effort, right? And so I use this actually with my children. So my 16-year-old, he came back one day and he said, I did really poorly in my maths exam. He said, okay, do you know what to do? And he went through and he went, well, I missed a few classes and so I don't really know what to do. So I said, so part of it's strategy, like you actually didn't know what to do. And then it was talent as well, because he didn't have the skills because he didn't go to class. But ultimately what he came back with is, Mum, it was effort. I didn't make the effort to find out what I had to do for the exam. So instead of making excuses around, it's not my fault, I was sick, the teacher didn't tell me, my friend didn't give me the homework, blah, blah, all that. If anyone's got teenagers, you've heard all that excuse, and you've probably heard similar excuses from your teammate. Somebody hasn't, they didn't give me the notice, somebody didn't send me a reminder, blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, when you take them through this strategy, talent, effort model, they it comes down to, I didn't make the effort to find out the information that I needed, because if I did find out the information, I would have developed the skill and the talent, because I'm not silly. Like he said, I'm not stupid, Mum. I said, well, no, you're not stupid, but you didn't make the effort to find the information. So now your test results say that you are. I mean, I didn't say he was stupid. He said he was stupid. So I think it's really important to go through that really rational conversation so that they can go, this is my role in this, and this is how I become a more high performing individual and then high performing team. Now, you see discretionary effort in higher performing teams, absolutely. And here's the reality. If you're in a high-performing team, you get excited about more achievement and you put in more effort and you have more fun. And it's always much better to be in a team that's winning than losing. Like, who wants to be in a losing team? Like, it's really awful to be in a losing team. Um, I have a very efficient team, but poor culture due to lack of respect for each other's values. So that's a really interesting piece, right? Because ultimately, efficiency is not high performing. It is not in innovation. Um, and it's hard slog. Like, if people are not aligned and don't um respect each other's values, then it's very hard to turn up. And how do you trust each other? So a fundamental of a high performing team is trust. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't have to agree with each other's values. You just have to accept them, right? Again, I use the example when I'm coaching, and this is a really stupid example, but I like stupid examples because they highlight stupidity of sometimes our opinions. If I love chocolate ice cream and I go out to dinner with you and we've decided at the beginning of the night that we're going to share a dessert because we're both on a health kick. And so we are going to have dessert, but we're only going to have half, right? So we don't want it one each. And I say, I love chocolate ice cream, but you love vanilla and you hate chocolate and I hate vanilla. We can do three things. We can argue about why I'm right or you're wrong. Why would you like vanilla? It's so boring. It's the boringest flavor of all the ice cream flavors, right? Chocolate is the best flavor and it's made out of cocoa and it's blah, 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 right? So I could carry on about how wonderful chocolate is. You could carry on about how awesome vanilla is. We're never going to agree and we could fight about that. Or we could say, you love vanilla, good on you. I love chocolate, good on me. I'm never going to like the other one. We either have our own or we choose strawberry, which we both like, right? So when it comes to values, like, some things are a clash. I've got to accept, obviously, if there are clashes in values, but we need to be grown up enough to be able to accept other people's differences without judging them and without trying to change them. There is a concept of bringing your whole self to work, but actually bringing your unprofessional self to work, which means that if I'm feeling bad, I just, I got everyone's got to, align with me and look after me and support me, which is partly true. Like, we need to be supportive of each other, but it's not other people's role to always pander to me, right? We are all individuals and we need to take control of our own little piece. So that one's a tough one. If anybody, the person that mentioned the different values, that's an offline conversation if you wanted to reach out to me, because I think that's a really tough one. And I can probably do some, if I have a little bit more information, I can probably help you out a little bit there. If you have a small L&D team, what are your biggest tips for influencing others to align with their goals? It doesn't matter whether you have a large team or a small team. It's always important to align. And I always start with what we usually can align on the goals. We usually sometimes don't necessarily align on the how we're going to get those goals. So it would be literally, what do you want to achieve? What do you think? What does success look like? How will we measure that? And then, if they're different from what you believe success is, explain why do you think your success looks like that and why does their success look like that? I mean, sometimes alignment is as simple as a conversation of, oh, I didn't think about it like that. I'm curious, how did you get to that? I'm really curious. I don't understand that. That's not the way I thought about it. The way I thought about it was like this. And then sit back, reflect. And I think the biggest thing about alignment is actually both being open to changing your mind, and that somebody else can actually be not right or wrong, but have a better solution. Because it's not that your solution's bad. What was the third thing in the last discussion? Argue about why I'm right and you're wrong. Choosing strawberry. Um, Or just have your own desserts. That was the third one. Has anybody got any other questions? Thoughts? I can keep talking forever, which is not fun always. Um, don't yuck someone else's yum. I love that. I've been here. Yep. Barrier skill, not will. Discretionary effort. Core culture. Got 210. Yep. Kids example. Yeah. Kids are great fodder for presentations, let me tell you. Especially my kids. Okay. Does anybody want to make any other comments? Thoughts on balancing high-performing organization with a non-performing team? Strategy, talent, effort. Are they clear about what they need to do? Have you asked them? Can they come back to you and tell you exactly what they need to do? Do they have the talent? Have they got the skill? Have they got the resources? Have you communicated that? And then if they have those two things, are they actually making the effort? Are they putting in the hard yards? Are they not? So we look at that in everything that we do. Again, going back to my son's bad, maths mark, really clearly going, I just want to understand when success happens, these three things are in line. When success doesn't happen, one of these things is falling over. Let's work out which one of those three is falling over so that we can fix it. One question that I went to a presentation once, and this woman said that she always asks, is this your best work? And if something's not working and they say no, then that's a good thing, because it's like, okay, the person knows that they maybe didn't put in the effort, or they could have done it differently, or blah, blah. If a person says, yes, it's my best work, that's when the issue is. Because if it's their best work, then if it's okay, then we've got to look at the other two bits. Sean, I saw that your hand was up. Did you want to unmute and say something?
Yes, Chris. I put the question in the chat, but how important is it to define what is high performance for my team?
Absolutely critical. Absolutely critical, because every person will have a different understanding of what high performance is. I always say, if I said the color yellow now, you would all think of a color and we'd all have a different shade in our mind, right? And so I would come and I'd say, here's my yellow jumper, and you go, that's not yellow, that's beige. And I go, no, it's light yellow, right? And somebody else will go, this is yellow. And I go, no, that's disgusting. That's fluoro green, right? So it's really important that if you have high performing, that's the code of conduct. What does this mean? Like, does it mean that we're really honest in all our communications, celebratory as well as difficult? Do we meet our deadlines, and do we give respect and turn up, do we meet our deadlines, or do we tell people when we can't? Do we turn up to our meetings on time? So it's really important to have that conversation. And again, like a marriage, like a family, you've got to have rules of what we know is true for when we interact with each other. Right? Yeah, and it needs to be the leader needs to set the structure and the culture to have those conversations, but it's every person's individual role to participate into it. So yeah, critical.
Chris, there's another query here. How do you bring people on the journey if they're resistant or don't have a growth mindset and think it'll blow over?
My approach is always to actually call it straight out and just say, here's where we are. It doesn't seem that you're happy here to contribute. Like, what's going on for you, and how can I help you? Right? Again, like a relationship, right? When one person isn't happy, the other person isn't happy. It's, it's very unusual that one person thinks I'm in a great relationship and the other person thinks I'm going to get divorced. And it's the same thing in a work environment. It's very rare that one team member thinks they're doing it awesomely and the manager thinks that they're about to, have a performance discussion, unless you're a leader that doesn't actually, clear things up, right? So I just think having honest conversations around, do you feel that you're contributing to your level of ability? Do you think that you're adding value in the way that you want to add value? Do you feel really engaged and challenged here? And if you're not, what do we need to do about that? Is it a role function issue? Is it a clarity issue? Is it a leadership issue? Is it something about the way I work with you that we need to change? But I would say within that it's not always the leader's role to make the change, right? It could be that what you're asking for is actually very, very reasonable, and they need to make the change to fit in with your culture or your code of conduct for your organization. But I just think the best way to come to a solution is to have a really honest conversation that's planned out, that is kind, that is clear, that is respectful, and that is rational. Now I'm going to just share my screen again so that you guys can QR code the downloads. So if you want to do that, and that's got all our tip sheets there. If you would like to do that, and our contact details are there too. So if you do have any questions for me or the team, feel free to come through, and happy to answer any question. Anything else to add there, Ben, or any other? I can't see the comments now because I'm sharing my screen.
One comment from Amelia: would love to have some good frameworks to have these discussions for a leader who is a little apprehensive and still working on their radical candor.
Okay. You should have some of it in these tip sheets. If not, can you send me an email and we will well, actually what I would say is actually Google Kim Scott Radical Candor or get the book. I mean, of course we have a program on it and all that sort of stuff, but it's such a fantastic model, and once you get into the rhythm of it, it's so effective. So have a look, read that. You can do the cheat sheet as well. Just Google her. She's got a 5-minute video.
The book looks like this.
Yes, highly recommend.
Thank you. I've actually started it. I'm trying to cut corners so I can do it faster.
Kind and clear. That's it.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, that's great, Christine. I've taken a lot of notes here. We're talking everything from the start of psychology, where we are in our journey, building that trust, the goals, code of conduct, and the rest. So it's a lot of great information, and I can see for myself one area that I'd love to try with my team as well, about what to keep doing and to stop doing. And so thank you so much, Christine. We're going to have a little round of applause. Christine, thank you so much for your awesome presentation. Please scan the QR code, ask lots of questions. Christine, you're always up for a chat or to get your team involved in helping to create solutions. So, please jump in there, get that scan, and we will distribute a copy of this presentation in the next day or so, once we top and tail this webinar and distribute it out with Christine's contact details and the rest. Just take a real quick opportunity to say, with AITD, we're really pleased to have you here. For those of you who don't know much about us, we are a community of learning development professionals. It is a tribe. It's an area that we like to support one another in our work. Everyone from emerging professionals to skilled professionals, and there's a lot of support arrangements around that. So please stay tuned to what we do at AITD. If you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, or you can send me an email, ceo@aitd.com.au. Be happy to help out. with that, it's really great. Have a really fantastic rest of the day. Thanks again, Christine, and take care. We'll see you at the next webinar.
One thing, if somebody's
Yes.
doing the QR code and they can't do Hotmail, Gmail, just email us to hello@peeplcoach.com and we'll get it to you.
That's great. Thanks very much, everyone.
Okay.